In the offseason around here on Texas Football Today, that means one thing and one thing only. That's right, it's time for Math Tuesday.
Math Tuesday. Math Tuesday.
Math Tuesday. Here on Texas Football Today, where we dive inside the numbers of Texas high school football. And the good news for us here at the Math Tuesday department is that we got plenty of numbers to talk about. Specifically, earlier this week, on Monday, we unveiled the 2026 Dave Campbell's Texas Football High School Football Program Rankings. High school football program rankings in which we take every UIL Texas high school football program and rank them 1 through 1,216, I think it is. At least the programs that have played at least 6 varsity seasons. And we want to give you first a quick refresher on how this looks. You can find the complete rankings on texasfootball.com. But let's get a quick refresher on how the rankings work, okay? These are 6-year program rankings, right? And they are based on 5 factors over the last 6 seasons of Texas high school football. Pretty easy to understand. Games won, which is how many wins did you have over the last 6 games or 6 seasons relative to the maximum possible. So if you're an 11-man team, you can win up to 96. And if you're a 6-man team, you can win up to 90. Winning percentage. How many of the games that you actually played did you win? So, for example, if you go 11-3, then you are going to have a better record. It'll benefit you more than if you went 10-1, because we include both the games won and the winning percentage, because you won more of the possible number of possible games. 10-win seasons. Out of the last 6 seasons, how many of them did you cross the 10-win threshold? Seems pretty simple. State titles. Okay. Probably don't have to explain it. In the last 6 years, how many state championships did you win? And finally, title game appearances. How many times did you make it to a state championship game? So yes, if you win a state championship, you kind of get the double bonus, because you get the bonus for being in the title game, and then you get the bonus for the state championship game. And I won't bore you with the numbers, but basically all of those things are set against a 100-point scale. So if you were a team that went 96-0 and won 6 state championships and had the greatest run in Texas high school football history, you would have a perfect 100. And if you went 0-96 or 0-90 for a 6-man team, you would have an imperfect 0. And so, as a reminder, here were the top 10 teams in the Texas high school football program rankings, according to Dave Campbell's Texas Football, that came out on Monday on texasfootball.com. A new number 1 at the very top, which is the Carthage Bulldogs, 85-3, those 4 state championships. Gunner is 2nd, South Oak Cliff 3rd, Galena Park North Shore 4th, Aledo, Duncanville, DeSoto, Gordon, Franklin, and Shiner. And I'll tell you, when we were designing this system and designing this metric, we did kind of tweak it at times to make sure that it felt right to us. Like, I want to make sure that there's not someone that's like, oh, actually, Pflugerville Hendrickson is better than, Carthage. This to me feels right. The top 10 programs here in Texas high school football, this does feel like the best 10 programs in Texas high school football over the last 6 seasons. But one of the interesting things about doing this year to year is that you get to see the trajectory of programs and which programs are on the rise, which programs are falling, where these programs are heading. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that every year you get a new 6 seasons. So, in this last year's rankings reflected the 2019 to 2024 rankings, okay? 2024 seasons. These rankings now move up a year. It's going to be about 2020 through 2025. So, if you want to know how you rise and fall in the rankings, you take the season that is falling off and you compare it to the season that is onboarding, right? That's a quick and dirty way to do it. If you are losing a terrible season, I'll give you an example. Bay City. Bay City had an 0-9 record in 2019. They were 0-9. This past year, I think they went 10-2, maybe 9-3. They had a really nice year. they are going to shoot up in the rankings because they are replacing a bad season with a good season. The inverse holds as well. So all that being said, let's take a look at the 5 biggest risers in this year's Texas high school football program rankings. The number 1 ranked team moving up, the Terrell Tigers, who went from 891 to 449, up 442 spots. And you can see why. In 2019, they went 1-8. That season drops off of the rankings, and into the rankings goes a 12-1 mark, their best season in years and years and years. What an unbelievable job Marvin Sedbury did with the Terrell Tigers. Crum is up next. Crum up from 919 to 481, up 438 spots. And again, pretty easy. You go from 0-10 to 10-1. You flop those in. You add in the bonus, remember, that you're getting for a 10-win season. For Crum, that's why they made that big leap. Same thing goes for three-way. The Braves went from 983 to 566 because they replaced a 2-8 season with an 11-2 season. Same thing goes for the Cardinals of Bridge City. From 900 to 492, a 408 spot jump because they added that 11-2 mark in replacement of the 2019 mark when they went 2-8. And then finally, way out west, El Paso El Dorado. The Aztecs went from 816 to 427, up 389 spots. Thanks to losing that forgettable 2019 season and adding in a 10-2 mark. So those are the programs that were the fastest risers from 2025 to 2026. Now, there is a flip side to this, and we don't love talking about it, but there are programs that are replacing great 2019s. They wish they could go back to 2019 with 25 seasons where maybe they struggled. And so let's take a look at the teams that have fallen the fastest in this year's program rankings. At the top is Rice Consolidated. The Raiders went down 410 spots to 835. You can see that in 2019 they were 11-2. It's a breakout year for the Raiders. But since then they've just been 24-37. And that, now they lose that 11-2 year, it drops in the rankings. The next two are really interesting because McLean and Blum played each other in the state championship game. If you remember the 1A Division I state championship game back in 2019, Blum beat them. Well, since then, McLean has gone 28-32. Blum has been 500, 33-33. And as a result, they each dropped about 400 spots in the rankings because they're losing that magical run to AT&T Stadium back in 2019. Van Vleck is down in 395 spots. They went 11-2 back in 2019. That now falls off of the 6-year program rankings. And since then, they've been 25-38. And then finally, Woodsboro. Woodsboro, they're replacing a season that was doing a lot of the heavy lifting for them in the rankings. That 12-1 season, that breakout season, is in 2019, falls off. Since then, they've been just 15-45. So those are the programs that are the fastest fallers. Now, I will say, coming out, I think today on TexasFootball.com, is Carter Yates has a piece on teams he thinks could make the next leap in the program rankings. And it's twofold. That's a twofold thing because he's looking at teams that were in 2020 that didn't have a great year, that are also trending up or could have a breakout 2026 season. Because that's how these program rankings work. You want to make sure you're replacing bad seasons with good seasons every time it shifts a year. And, of course, teams like Terrell did an unbelievable job of replacing a lackluster 2019 with a bonzo 2025 season. So there it is. A look at the fastest risers and fallers in Texas high school football. In the program rankings, you can find the complete program rankings on TexasFootball.com. I will say, I mentioned Bay City because I got a tweet from a coach who said, hey, the record is wrong. There have been a couple of small changes to them. I've updated them because there were a couple of, I won't bore you with the way that the spreadsheet works, but there were a couple of errors in there, just coding errors that I had to go through and fix. Nothing major changing, but there were a couple of programs that have moved because of that. So make sure you go check out the rankings, TexasFootball.com, the 2026 Dave Campbell's Texas football, high school football program rankings exclusively on TexasFootball.com.